The future of Russia's sanctions under Trump, a high-stakes game of diplomacy. Western nations remain embroiled in debates over the future of sweeping sanctions against Russia as former U.S. President Donald Trump signals a shift in strategy, raising questions about the global balance of power. Since Moscow's military incursion into Ukraine in February 2022, over 1,000 sanctions have been imposed by dozens of countries targeting Russian banks, businesses, and influential individuals. Now, more than 1,000 days later, as President-elect Trump prepares to assume office, discussions over the effectiveness and the fate of these unprecedented measures have reached a boiling point. Trump has consistently stated, "I want to use sanctions as sparingly as possible," hinting at a redefined U.S. stance toward Ukraine, including a promise to end the conflict. This potential policy shift has experts questioning the leverage Western sanctions hold in any forthcoming negotiations with Moscow. While initial predictions suggested economic sanctions would quickly weaken President Vladimir Putin's government or collapse the ruble, reality paints a more complex picture. Russia's economy has largely withstood these pressures, and its military continues to achieve significant advances on the Ukrainian battlefield. Sergei Guriev, a prominent Russian economist and dean of the London Business School, emphasizes that expecting sanctions to promptly end a conflict is more aspirational than realistic. Instead, the focus should be on whether sanctions effectively hinder Russia's war-making capabilities. According to Guriev and other analysts, the answer is a cautious yes. Western sanctions, particularly those restricting Moscow's access to global financial systems and U.S. dollars, have indeed strained Russia's economic stability. Over $300 billion in Russian assets have been frozen by Western banks, and restrictions on key technologies have disrupted critical sectors. The European Union, once reliant on Russia for 40% of its natural gas, has significantly reduced this dependency, leaving Moscow scrambling for alternative revenue streams. Nonetheless, Russia has found ways to mitigate these impacts, often with help from allies such as China and India. By purchasing Russian oil and gas, these nations have bolstered Moscow's revenue streams. Furthermore, dual-use Western goods, capable of civilian and military applications, continue to reach Russia through third-party countries like Turkey and the UAE. When Trump steps into the negotiating room with Putin, these sanctions could serve as valuable bargaining chips. However, experts like Alina Rybakova of the Peterson Institute for International Economics caution that without rigorous enforcement and adaptability, sanctions lose their bite over time. Moreover, economic growth in Russia has slowed, inflation remains high, and many Western-made products have either vanished from shelves or been replaced by inferior substitutes. Financial sanctions have proven particularly impactful, given the dominance of the U.S. dollar in international trade. Moscow's exclusion from the SWIFT banking network has also significantly complicated international transactions, from oil sales to purchasing pharmaceuticals. Despite these challenges, Russia has steadily developed strategies to evade the sanctions, such as building its own fleet of tankers to transport oil and maintaining energy exports to nations outside the Western alliance. As Trump's administration seeks to reframe America's foreign policy, the durability and evolution of sanctions remain central to the discussion. Experts argue that the next steps must address gaps in enforcement, broaden the coalition of participating nations, and adapt to Russia's evolving countermeasures. Ultimately, the effectiveness of these measures will depend on whether they are used as a means to an end, bringing Russia to the negotiating table, or merely as a punitive tool.